Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca, and I am here to introduce Arthur, the CEO of Nostra, which helps Shopify brands boost site speed, and Stephanie here from Showday, who Showday is an all-in-one video commerce platform for Shopify brands, bringing video shopping, live or not, to their storefronts. And they are going to chat about conversion rate optimization. So I will let them take it from here.
Thank you for the intro, Rebecca. As she mentioned, I'm Stephanie from Showday, and I'm the senior growth lead there. And I'm super excited to interview Arthur today. Thanks for watching, and we hope that this interview is filled with tons of nuggets of information that you can use to better increase CRO on your site. So just to break the ice a little bit, Arthur, let's talk about what's the most interesting thing that you've learned so far that has nothing to do with your job.
Oh, that's a great question. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. And it looks like there's some deliveries happening at the office right now, so I apologize if there's a little bit of background noise. Um, well, I think the stuff that I've learned that I've been learning a lot about recently is more on the kind of people management and the HR side of the business. You know, there's a bunch of strategy, there's a bunch of conversion rate optimization, speed tips that we can go over today. But I think the most interesting stuff that we've been doing at Nostra is kind of the internal stuff. So we just had an offsite, and just seeing everybody spend time together and the amount of new ideas that came out of the offsite was just amazing to me. And then we've instituted some small things just for company culture, like like the Nectar app that now we can shout people out, and it's just amazing to see, when one person compliments another, when Mario compliments Caitlin, how much of an impact that has, not just on their work performance, which obviously is important, but more on in terms of the impact it has in terms of kind of their quality of life and how much they appreciate kind of their day-to-day work environment. And so that's really been my big focus lately. And it's been really interesting to learn about learn and experiment and say, hey, how can we make this the best place possible to clock in every day.
That's amazing to hear. I love telling friends and other like business owners that behind every great tool, behind every great app, it's all about the people. And in the end, we're all here to serve. Whether you are building an app, whether you're building an e-commerce site that's selling products, or even providing some kind of a service, it's always about the people. So that's great to hear, Arthur. So now that we know, about all the great people running the tools at Nostra, let's talk about CRO. So we know that CRO is such an important aspect of growing an e-commerce business, and Nostra is basically at the forefront of that. In your perspective, what are the top 3 things that merchants should prioritize to ensure higher conversion rates in their online stores?
Yeah, well, I think, if you look back at the internet for the last 20, 30 years, the best way to increase conversion rate was just to make your website fast. If you look at Amazon, it's just a fast website. There have been billions and billions of dollars that have been spent on how to make websites fast. So I think first and foremost, any millisecond you can shave off, 50 milliseconds here, 20 milliseconds there, making sure that your scripts are loading in the correct way, using a tool like Nostra so that you can have, that your site just be as fast as possible. I think that's number one. And nobody has ever complained about their website being too fast. So that's number one. Number two, something that I often see is seeing CTAs below the fold. Whether that's your, banner on the, or not your banner, your hero image on the homepage not having a CTA, or on a PDP page that it's not optimized for mobile, and so you scroll down and there's no sticky call to action. I mean, literally, we just see that every single time. We have an experimentation platform that is the number one winning experiment. It's just moving the CTA to either be sticky or above the fold. And then lastly, the less steps in a funnel, the better. So we see this as a B2B SaaS company selling into different, stores. Less steps in the funnel, the better. But even for a e-commerce store, which is probably 10x more prevalent than us, if you can get somebody to click checkout with 4 clicks instead of 5, that's a win. If you can use Shopify's one page checkout, we've administered some tests that we've seen like 80-90% bumps in conversion, which is kind of mind-boggling to me. And so a lot of the things to think about in CRO is like, keep things simple. There's stuff that works. Keep it simple. Keep your website fast. Make sure people know exactly what you're selling. Have clear CTAs, and don't overcomplicate the website for the sake of overcomplicating it. And that will allow you to have room to add in some cool, fun things, whether that be shoppable videos that people are accustomed to or elsewhere. But if you keep the core of the website simple, there's a lot of good stuff that can happen.
No, I completely agree. And from a marketing perspective, you want to make things easy, simple, and completely obvious for the shopper. And the reason being is because, we have such a short attention spans nowadays. We're getting thrown tons of information our way. So when you have the opportunity to capture someone's attention on a PDP or a landing page or even your homepage, you want to make sure that they can take action in seconds. So I completely agree. And also, keeping that path to purchase really short. I think that's one thing that we both have in common is that, sorry if there's a truck passing by at the moment of the interview, but I strongly believe that, having that short path to purchase, whether it's making your website faster and keeping those call to actions at the top, or using shoppable videos like you mentioned that make it easy for the person to look at the product, add it to the cart, and enjoy the process is super important.
Absolutely, that's totally true.
So since we're on the topic of shoppable videos a little bit here, video commerce has been on the rise over the last couple of years. How do you see shoppable videos influencing conversion rates? And what are some practices that you think that merchants can adopt to get the most out of this medium while keeping their websites super fast?
Well, I think there's the basic stuff of, deciding, number one, hey, can the website load in and then the shopping video load in after? So lazy loading it in. I'd venture a guess that most people aren't lazy loading in this, but it doesn't need to be there, before, what matters getting there first, the image or the video? Probably you can get the image in above the fold and then lazy load that in, which will make it so that you can do stuff like this on the shoppable video side. So I think that's number one, is to understand, hey, we're going to be, we're going to have a heavier payload item. And so let's strategize as to where is it going to land on the page? Is it going to be above the fold? Okay, if it is above the fold, does it need to be there? Does it need to be the first thing that loads in, or can it load in a little later? So I think that's step one, is kind of making the determination of when does it need to be there. I would be, an estimated dated delivery is another good example of this, where it doesn't need to be there right away. It needs to be there eventually, but if it takes an extra 30 or milliseconds or 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds for it to load in, nobody really cares. And so I think that's step one. And then step two is, hey, how can you host, I assume you're hosting it on a CDN. How do you make sure that it's actually as performative as possible? And then number three is testing it, right? I'm sure with any app and plugin, you need to be able to administer a straight A/B test to say, hey, for what percentage of the audience, number one, is this increasing conversion rate and revenue per user overall? Number two, who is this increasing conversion rates for? If this is only increasing conversion rates for people who come in through TikTok ads, maybe you only show it for people who come in through TikTok ads. But if you determine, hey, this is increasing conversion rate for people who come in through organic, through Facebook ads, through Google ads, etc., then show it to everyone. But if you determine it's only for certain sources, maybe you write an if-then statement that says, if someone comes in through a TikTok ad, then they see see this video, and if they don't, then they don't. Then they don't. So I think, just experimenting and really get an understanding of the data and seeing who it works for is crucial.
Definitely. And like you mentioned, a big aspect of all this is running those A/B tests. And to give people context on testing, what are some common mistakes that you usually see merchants do when it comes to CRO tests, and how can they avoid those things?
Well, I think number one is not waiting for statistical significance. I mean, I think every single test that I would say on 20 to 50% of the tests that we administer, people are like, yeah, but I'm just going to look early and then make a determination there. And we're testing software sometimes. So at the end of the day, it's up to them. If they want to look early and they want to make the change, they can, but it's just, you're essentially just guessing at that point, and you might as well not run the test in the first place. So waiting for statistical significance is number one. Number two is understanding the different audiences that played into the test. Um, if you are able to understand, hey, people, as I said, it came from Facebook like this, but people who came from Google didn't like it. That's a huge understanding. So to really look into the data and see what's happening. And then number three is to make sure that you're not biasing the test by running it on the client side. So if you use a convert.com or a Google Optimize or Optimizely, you're going to be, and the way that you onboard it, but is just by adding a script to Java or a line of JavaScript. You are essentially hiding the page for 200 milliseconds and then showing the B variant. That is biasing the test in the first place. And so you have to be really, really careful to only use server-side testing, because otherwise you're really getting the test is, okay, 200 milliseconds and a flash of unstyled content plus this B variant versus a straight A variant. And that's not a fair test. On top of that, it'll really hurt your Google ads, SEO, Facebook ads, etc., because they're going to be crawling two different web pages. So you have to be really careful with how you're administering tests.
Definitely. And how long do you think these tests should be ran until you have significant data to be able to analyze?
Well, it depends, right? If it's a clear winner, right, you can get that data in tens of thousands of visitors. If it's like, 30, 40% winner, if it's a 2 to 5% visitor winner, it can take millions of sessions. And you just have to, depends on how much of a winner. If a shoppable video is a 80% winner, you can get statistical significance on a decent traffic site in a couple days. If it's a 2% winner, it might take a couple months to really get that to statistical significance.
Yeah, definitely. So you have to make sure that you're aware of how many visitors you're getting in and what kind of KPIs you want to measure in order to see what's going to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of all these different tools, right? In e-commerce, there's so many different plugins, so many different apps that you can use on your site. Do you think that in this day and age, merchants have to create some kind of compromise on tools and functionalities that they can have on their site in order to make sure their site is really fast?
I think it's important to be aware of what you're doing, and to do things intelligently. I think it is important to use tools that come from reputable developers. We've seen tools on sites that are firing, nonstop, and they just slow down the entire web experience. They tax everyone's servers, and it's just like, yeah, because some random developer in the middle of nowhere built this, and there are 30 people in the world that use it, and obviously there are no resources behind making it performative and etc. So that's number one. Number two, if you are able to deploy these apps out on the edge, so on the server side, that can be really, really important in terms of saying, hey, this was going to be a 200 millisecond hit to page load time, but instead it's actually only 1 to 2 milliseconds, and in which case you can have as many apps as you want. And so those are kind of the things to look at. And then, right, if a company is, I know for reviews, like Okendo is, claiming to be the fast version. That's definitely a big selling point. And so, it's really important to make sure that you're onboarding the right apps and then onboarding them the right way.
Definitely. It all starts from really knowing what you want and how you're going to maximize those tools instead of just piling on a bunch of things. All right.
Absolutely.
And definitely. Um, so as e-commerce continues to evolve, like we mentioned, video commerce is a huge thing. Now AI is really coming in and so many new tools are coming up. What technologies and trends do you foresee having a significant impact on the industry?
Well, I think that there's a lot that's going to happen within edge computing. So AI is fantastic and it's super interesting to look at and all the functionalities. But a lot of the benefit is, if you will, saving time, right? You go to ChatGPT to type in your answer so you can get it super quickly and you can get kind of a condensed version. But what came before that is actually, hey, how can ChatGPT run these models super quickly and get it to learn and execute fast enough? And that's kind of, well, that comes down to kind of like edge computing and seeing, okay, how can we get servers closest to the individual, so and as much logic as possible and algorithms that can run on those servers so that they can be as fast as possible. And a lot of people are spending so much time focused on AI generally, but one of the prerequisites in my mind is actually edge computing to then be able to properly reap the benefits of kind of this AI revolution that's happening that everyone can agree is going to be massive and have a huge impact in terms of, productivity, in terms of, quality of life, etc. But it's all predicated on how can we deliver it fast enough to the end user. And that is kind of actually comes down to edge computing and what Akamai really pioneered back in the day. Akamai, and then now Cloudflare is probably the leader in it.
Yeah, for sure. And with that in mind, what do you think is the future of merchants and companies that don't implement these new technologies? Do you think they're just going to disappear, or will they stay around but just with not as much audience?
I think that the future of the of folks that with this will be, one of a painful long kind of demise. If you're in an ad auction and Google is every time giving somebody 50% lower CPCs, you're just not going to be able to survive as a business. It's just impossible. We've seen this, right? We've seen customers of ours sign up for Nostra, and then their competitors just start getting destroyed in ad auctions and end up coming to us and saying, hey, like, I don't like, how can we compete again? And so it's really, it ends up being a race to, it ends up being a race to say, hey, who can implement these tools? Okay, maybe you're a week behind, that's okay. But if you're a year behind and you have to take a full year of algorithms being trained that are gonna, be rewarding your competitor instead of you, that's tough. Theoretically, if you have no competitors, which very few companies do, yeah, maybe it doesn't make a huge difference if you're 6 months to a year behind, but I don't think that's a good strategy, if you will, for these companies.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about evolving and adapting, because if not, you disappear. I once heard a quote that if you're not growing, you're dying. So
Yeah, it's
merchants
unfortunate.
keep that in mind. All right. So we've reached our last question of the interview. And considering all these new changes in e-commerce, conversion rate optimization, all the great things that Nostra is doing, and even tools like Showday that offer video commerce to enhance those conversions. How are you guys positioning yourself to support merchants through these changes and have them keep their sites fast, but they can still leverage the trends that are going to help them grow?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So we view ourselves as allowing you to use tools like Showday or other, tools that can help you increase your conversion rate while also maintaining how fast your site is. So a lot of our customers look at it as like, I am now able to, you know, use Showday because my site is so fast. Some of our other customers view it as like, I just want the fastest site possible, and that's it. But the vast majority kind of look at it as like, hey, Nostra is the workout so that I can drink the milkshake of these different apps. And so I think that they kind of go hand in hand. And I think it's very, very important for the Shopify store owners and other e-commerce stores to work with reputable developers of applications. So, easy ways to do that is look at kind of the financing history of the business, look on LinkedIn, how many employees do they have, etc. Because if you're able to work with good engineers, they should be able to build a fast app in this world. It's it's not it can be detrimental to the business not to have a fast site, and so it's crucial to work with folks that really know what they're doing here.
No, completely agree, and I can attest to that. My shameless plug to Showday is that we do not affect site speed, and we are able to collaborate with tools like Nostra so that you can basically increase your conversions and basically make that path to purchase for customers even easier. So I completely agree that, making sure that the team is there, is showing up, and you're able to easily use these apps to make you increase those conversions and sales is extremely important.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you having me on here today. And yeah, again, if anybody wants to learn more about Nostra or Showday, definitely feel free to reach out.
Thank you
Definitely.
both. I was just going to say thank you both so much for chatting. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, and it was great to learn the ins and outs of how Nostra is helping merchants make their sites even faster.